Awesome, awesome. Very excited to be here. Kicking off, we want to definitely give thanks and tribute to Colliers International for hosting this beautiful space. Being the visionaries in the city to actually bring about the change. We all individually are out here doing our things, but when it comes to bringing the collective together, nobody does it better than Deep Culture and the events that Deep Tropics put on throughout the city. And so with that said, we're getting ready to talk about planetary health. And got this esteemed panel here today. And, I would say Mayor's teed it up, 4 areas that we want to talk about, but really we want to walk away with how do these all play together when we talk about the land? This is Mother Earth. We're spinning around here in this great expanse. And what is our role? And what is the legacy? You just heard it in the spoken word. What legacy are we going to leave for that next generation? So there's the land, the farm, food systems, and then the last piece when we think about the people is community health. So with that said, I'm going to tee it up. We're going to do a round robin on this first question. And, the goal that we want to walk out of here with is how does it work together? What can I do as an individual when we walk out of here to have a greater impact? And then drop some nuggets that we can then share with the world, right? Okay, first up, how do you see planetary health informing the work that you do? I'll start with Carol and go down.
So I'm a nurse. I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm an advanced practice holistic nurse and a functional medicine provider. And I teach at Vandy at the School of Nursing. And I think about this when I speak in terms of education, practice, policy, and research in those buckets. And so I would say in terms of education, I'm really excited to say Vanderbilt has embedded now planetary health in all of our nursing programs. So that's been about 2 years now. So we really work to make sure students are aware of both how the healthcare sector contributes specifically to climate change and waste and what we can do about that, but then how that affects our patients. So like in Nashville, it's heat and air quality. That's what we stress. How can we advocate better? What kind of assessments can we do? And then also I practice. So as a practitioner, I bring it a lot into my practice as far as home and community health assessments, how I advise people about how to better take care of themselves. And then with the functional medicine piece, it's really root cause medicine. It's nursing, but nursing has gotten co-opted. So it's really root cause nursing is what I would say. As far as research, I have a lab at the Wondery, which Haynes was really instrumental in getting launched, and I was so happy to see you here, the Climate Health Energy Equity Lab. So in that space, we work to find ways to direct carbon offset dollars into local initiatives that fund programs and projects that improve people's health. So we think of carbon offsets like an indulgence. We actually call them carbon indulgences. And so in the research space, we have just published a paper that kind of shows how to combine a social and carbon offset together for increased value and to get companies to pay for things that aren't traditionally funded through carbon offset dollars. So that's the research. With advocacy, advocacy is next, right? That's what I said. Advocacy with planetary health, that's where I really put most of my energy. So locally, I'm on the Board of Health, and I really focus in that space on air quality and ways that I can, as a nurse, leverage health impacts in the co-benefit space. So how do we convince like Nashville to charge more for pollution emissions? We charge like $1 a metric ton of polluted air. That's what we charge nationally. So when they said that, I was like, a ton of air is a lot because air is light, right? Am I thinking about that correctly? So thinking of ways to advocate in policy. And then nationally, I'm part of NCQA, which is a group that really brings to the table how Medicare reimburses. So for the first time this year, we've got air quality in the discussion for asthma care reimbursement. So we're really excited about that. So I just really try to bring the planetary health co-benefit lens into practice, education, policy, et cetera.
Awesome, thanks, Tonya.
So I just recently moved into the agriculture space in 2023, last year. I won a grant from the USDA to develop a farm, a regenerative farm that is based in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. And when at the outset of this initiative, I knew that I wanted to move into a space in this latter part of my life, in a space that is impactful and meaningful in a way beyond just doing a job. And so we bought the land, my husband and I, in 2020. And the first thing I wanted to figure out is how could I focus on conservation? How do we bring back, you know, our natural resources and replenish our planet with wildflowers and grow food and bring back the insects and the animals that are indigenous to our areas and so into our area. And so I want, you know, the work that I'm doing now as a new farmer, new and beginning farmer, is focused on how do we provide an ecosystem that supports all life, not just humans, but animals and our insects. And so as I've been building this farm, which started this year, March of 2024, I'm really new to this, you all, like new. And so I'm realizing everything from our soil all the way through to what we plant, what we inoculate our seeds with, what we put into our soil as fertilizers or herbicides, all those things matter in the grand scheme of life. Like, it all matters. It matters because it also, the things that we are growing in our environment, this microbiome, is actually what lives inside of us in our gut microbiome. We are not separate from our environment. Our environment is in us, and we are in our environment. And so with Planetary Health, I mean, that is my sole focus. And I think a lot of the people in here, especially on this panel, that is our sole focus, is how do we improve the quality of our life through how we live, how we work, how we build community, how we engage with our world, how we consume. All those things are how Planetary Health informs what I do in my day-to-day.
Thank you. Tonya?
Thank you, yeah. So my name is Kristina, and on the micro level, I am a biodynamic farmer here in Middle Tennessee. I did not grow up farming. I do not come from a landed family. I grew up in an urban setting, but for the last decade, my partner and I have grown vegetables using biodynamic methods, and we sell to restaurants and grocery stores and CSAs. We also can, freeze, and ferment all of our own food. And we also have a herd of dairy cows that we move regularly in rotational grazing to help build soil. And on the macro level, I'm the co-executive director of the Farmers Land Trust, which is an organization that works nationally to decommodify land. So we take that land out of private ownership, place it into community ownership for the purpose of regenerative agriculture and long-term, secure, affordable tenure for farmers growing food for communities. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm so honored to be here with all of you. And my name is Natalie. I'm with Tennessee Local Food. We're a nonprofit based in Middle Tennessee, and kind of to answer this question, our positionality is we're here to support the people that are stewarding the earth using these regenerative practices. So farming, economically, it's not working for any farmers, small farmers or large farmers, really. But we definitely focus on supporting small farmers. These tend to be the farmers that are using organic or regenerative practices. So we provide education, we provide resources, we have a farmer relief fund supporting farmers impacted by weather-related disasters, which we're seeing more and more. And yeah, I think that answers the question.
Awesome, awesome. So let's kind of build bottom up. So many times we focus on top down. We wouldn't even be able to do anything without the land, right? But then when we think about, you know, my grandfather used to always say, the one thing God isn't creating any more of, what's that? Land. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to get access to. You know, just right here in Nashville, right down there on Broadway before the interstate, that 7-Eleven, that land sold for like $20, $30 million. And it's less than an acre of land. Less than an acre. And we need more land to provide regenerative-based food sources. So with that said, Kristina, let's start with, you know, you're working on the conservation of farmland. What do you see as the most critical reason for conserving farmland in the context of planetary health?
I actually think the conversation needs to move beyond conservation.
Okay.
Conservation easements have done great work to protect land from development, but they've mostly been used to perpetuate white wealth. And it's not enough to just protect farmland from development anymore. It's not enough to just use organic practices anymore. We need to make sure that that land is given to farmers and stewards who are going to regenerate that land and build that soil. Land access is the #1 barrier for farmers these days. We need to be moving beyond the conservation easement and providing accessible long-term tenure and security to farmers.
So, with that being, what's the problem? Now let's look at how working with government and even private entities, communities, do we work together to solve that base problem of getting access to regenerative opportunities on the farm?
Yeah, going back to your last point, like we're not making any more land, and the prices of land have appreciated so greatly by over 40% per decade nationally, and so viewing land as a commodity is one of the main issues that keeps land appreciating in value and gets it further out of reach for people. So that's one section of my answer to this. But municipalities, governments could do things such as urban growth boundaries to protect land in rural areas from being developed. They could trade development rights from rural land to urban spaces, creating higher urban density. But really, the main thing I can think of is that there's so much federal public funding available for conservation easements and for conservation land trusts, and we need that public funding and federal money to be available for community land trusts, for community ownership of land, for the work I do.
And I'm gonna throw one.
Bridget,
go ahead.
I really wanted to respond to something.
Please,
Kristina
jump in. No.
So I just have to say that Kristina is one of the reasons why I won the USDA grant that I won. So when she talks about conservation of natural resources and really empowerment of people, I actually reached out to her when I was working on my application, and she reviewed it for me because of her experience being a USDA grant reviewer. And so I just wanted to speak up because when she talks about conservation of land and also about another barrier for when, people getting into farming is funding. And so when you look at the applications that you are required to complete in order to receive federal dollars, it is cumbersome. It is really, really cumbersome. It's taxing. It is hard to navigate. And it is really difficult for people who, if you've never, and when they talk about equity and conservation, which is the grant that I won, I could not figure out how in the world equity was even in the title, because it is not equitable. You know, there's barriers that are purposely put in place for people to not receive federal funding. And if it's not like people like Kristina and even Natalie over here who's advocating, the money would not be put in the hands of the people who actually need it. And farmers who are farming the land need money, they need capital, they need equipment, they need labor, they need all of those things. And so if we don't have farmland trusts or, you know, organizations like these that are trying to protect farmland and not just conserve it, but protect it for generations to come, then we're doing a great detriment to the industry as a whole. So I just wanted to respond to that because I had to.
You won that grant because you're awesome, just to be clear.
So one last question on this round. We'll get through it. Okay. So Kristina, give us just a couple of examples of when it's done right, real practical examples, if you could.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, I'm going to go back to the very first community land trust ever, which was founded in 1969 in southern Georgia, which was New Communities Land Trust, because that was the very first community land trust ever, and it was focused on agriculture. And the community land trust movement has really evolved to focus more on housing and the affordability of housing and the built environment, but really that very first community land trust ever was all around agriculture and led by and created by Black people as an act of Black liberation. And I feel like that example is at the core of what we do, what we're inspired by, and the direction we should all be moving.
Thank you for that. Yes. So Tonya, you're a brand new farmer. What role does education play in equipping new and beginning farmers with the knowledge and skills to implement sustainable and regenerative farming practice?
So for me, the grant that I received is focused on equity and conservation, and the specific focus is on women, youth, BIPOC, and other underserved groups that are represented in the farming space. And so what our program is geared towards, and it's called Wonderful People, is teaching new and beginning farmers like myself how to farm. If you've never been in a farming family, if you never grew up gardening, you don't even know where to start. I mean, it's like, what? I have land, I want to grow food. What do I do? And so what we decided to do was create from March until October of each year for the 2 years of the grant, we take a group of 35 people through a series of workshops that focus on every aspect of farming, from how do you know the medium that you're growing in all the way through to the harvest, and then prepping during the winter months to prep for the next season. And so I selfishly, of course, wanted to learn farming, but I was like, it's not enough for me to get this money and then build a farm if I'm not bringing other people alongside me who are also interested in farming. I couldn't make this about me. I had to make it about community. And so with that, after we go through these classes, what we want people to do is take this information back to their respective homes, wherever they are, wherever they live, and incorporate those into their own growing practices, whether it's a raised bed, in-ground, pots, whatever, that they're utilizing sustainable practices in what they're doing. And they're growing food not just for themselves, but they're growing it for their communities. And we really want to target areas that are in urban core areas that are where there are food deserts that exist, where people cannot get healthy, nutritious food from a grocery store because it's not within walking distance for them. And so everything is about education, providing right resources and information so that people feel empowered in the decisions that they're making to inform their lives and the lives of the people in their community.
Real quick, what organizations are you partnering with now, and what are opportunities for the different organizations represented here today to partner with you on your event?
So actually, Tennessee Local Food Summit, definitely connected with Natalie, and we're doing some work together. Kristina is my girl in so many ways, and I'm actually on the board for Farmland Trust, and I'm really honored to be connected to the work she's doing. Nashville Food Project, Haynes here, has been an instructor for us, and also we partner with them on getting, Haynes is here. Can you raise your hand, please?
Haynes should just stand up.
Haynes, you should just stand up. She does a lot of amazing work here in the city with the Nashville Food Project. And then also the Tennessee Environmental Council, I'm really looking to get plugged into the work that they're doing as well. Because as Rashad said earlier, it takes a village, to do the work that we're all doing. Oh, the Wondry Center, yes.
And
yes,
Jacqueline also should stand up. I know it is.
The Wondry Center back there, absolutely. So, and then Katie Potts. There's a bunch of people in this room that I am plugged into and connected to that are doing amazing work, so.
Awesome, thank you. And so now let's take a look at food systems. We've already talked about the land, and we heard the opportunities there, the farm. In regarding to food systems, Natalie, how would you say overall, what are, based upon the issues we heard before, where are the opportunities when it comes to creating a resilient, sustainable food system?
Mm-hmm. So many opportunities. Just to name a few, I mean, the food that we get at the grocery store, it travels an average of 1,500 miles to get here. That's kind of crazy because Nashville is surrounded by farmland. In fact, close to 40% of Tennessee, the land is farmland, or has been farmland. It's, of course, we're losing it really rapidly. But so I think opportunities are to help get more people on that land, in things like Kristina is doing and others, getting people on land, getting more people growing food, providing them with the resources that they need to grow food. On the market side, if institutions are our largest purchasers of food. If hospitals and universities and other institutions were to say that they wanted to buy just 10% of their food budget to be, purchased locally or even regionally, that would be a game changer for the farmers in our community here. So that like purchasing power. Also, a quick story. I went and toured a produce distribution warehouse earlier this year. Huge warehouse filled from floor to ceiling with produce. And the people told me if we didn't receive another truck of food, this whole warehouse would be out in 48 hours. This was a giant warehouse. I can't even, 2 basketball, courts. It was just so much food, and I couldn't believe how quickly it moves. In 48 hours, it would be empty. So I think we need to not only get more food growing, but we need to get more we need more buyers of the local food. And then, of course, there's a lot of barriers. So there's a lot of, yeah.
Now, I want to look at another side of that, food resiliency. And I noticed personally from previous house I owned was right near a shopping center, and a Kroger's was in it. And it would be so much wasted food thrown out at that Kroger's. Let's dive into that impact. However you want to carve it out, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the food waste issue is just it's astronomical. I don't know if they're here. Jen is here yet. I know there's going to be somebody speaking later about the food waste initiative that's happening in Nashville. But growing food, it's all cyclical, and so of course we're going to have waste no matter what. But it would be great if we could capture that and turn it back into food. So I think getting more
compost.
And that's what I mean. Sorry, I just jumped there, but it's got to be compost first. So if we could get more of our food waste as compost and then get that back onto our land, that would be huge. And there are some initiatives happening. I think we just need more.
You're literally getting into my next question.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
No, I mean, I'll tee it up. Is what examples do we have out here that is proving out the capability of the path we want to go?
Yeah, I was gonna say the food waste initiative that's happening. It's through Compost Nashville and a partnership with the Metro Nashville.
And one real quick one, just as an individual, how can we have an impact personally? I mean, and I'm talking about not necessarily in the community, but when I walk into my house and how I'm treating food that I'm bringing in.
Well, I would actually say first, maybe walk outside of your house and get your hands in the dirt. I think that is one of the biggest issues, is that we need more opportunities for people to connect with the land. We're just so removed from our food. More opportunities for people to touch Earth.
Thank you. Yeah. Now, Carol, let's talk about the health side of this.
Well, can I talk about dirt? Because she talked about dirt.
Go ahead, you kick it off. Kick it off.
Because dirt is really important. So, and I was thinking as all of you all were talking, wow, if you could say, Carol, what's the one factor that if you could change would really impact health? It is dirt and the cost of houses or the cost of rent, right? So I have a practice that's free. I do home-based care for folks that can't afford healthcare. I used to be a Meharry. I left during COVID because COVID was a nightmare, y'all, if you were a healthcare worker. And so in my practice, most people that I am caring for, the rent eats first of all. So the housing costs in Nashville, and you talked about farm and land costs, is just killing people, literally. And after that, it is the bad food. And that is the soil, right? So I read some stat. I was a nutritionist in my past life. You have to eat like 10 oranges today, you all probably know, to get the nutrition you got from an orange in the 60s, just because the soil is so bad. So, I have, patients on all kind of medications or people buying supplements and spending their hard-earned money on supplements. And I'm like, if they just had better dirt, right, and better food, they probably wouldn't have to use that money there. So I think that root cause analysis of what's making people sick, and you all talked about food systems, it's the Farm Bill, right? It's the fact that we subsidize corn and not spinach. And that now the farm has been so industrialized that now, I'm writing people prescriptions for lisinopril and they need cash and better food is really what they need. And so I think, to answer your question, and also to put your hands in dirt helps your immune system. There's all these things we've separated ourselves, right, from the environment. And I think connecting people, and I think nurses and healthcare workers have a central role because we've been part of that system that's disarticulated all of us from ourselves and from health and healthcare. So we need a revolution, y'all. And I feel we got people starting up here. But I think the soil really matters. So I just want to say, if two things, if I could prescribe dollars to people and I wouldn't go to jail for it, or give people access to better food, that would have the biggest impact on health, I think.
And I'm going to let you get 30 seconds to kind of close this out. We're coming to the end. I wish we had a little bit longer, but Carol, just to really wrap it up from, because you touch so many things and are so eloquent in how you can take it from the land all the way into how healthy I am as an individual.
I think I want to talk to the young man that did the poem. I don't know if he's still in here. Spoken word. He's gone. But I think at the end he talked about connection and being connected to each other and being connected to the earth. And I think when I think about planetary health as an academic concept and a sort of a new meta paradigm, at the end of the day, it's like, how do we connect to each other and feel connected? Because we're in this beautiful building, but we could be outside, right? It's hot, but we could be outside. And so I think that word connection, connecting with each other, connecting to our own bodies, which is a struggle. We're in this really fast-paced life. And then, connection is what I would say.
Awesome. Round of applause, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience. Couldn't do it without you.